It looks like I'm live now. I didn't realise there was a go live button. There's two go live buttons I had to press. One in the software that I'm using and one on the YouTube website. So now that I've done that, looks like I'm live. Hopefully the audio's coming through alright. I'm just checking the volume levels. This is probably going to create an infinite window. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm just checking my audio levels, so hopefully that's not coming through too badly. I'm just waiting for the game to finish building. 10 minutes and counting. It shouldn't hopefully be that much longer. I'm just going to drop another announcement on the Discord server, so to remind people. I'm live now. And I'm going to have to try and make this run on my second screen. So I'm using my laptop, so you can't see that screen. Then I've got to connect it to an external screen, and that will hopefully be the one I run it on. But I've got to use a little bit of trickery to make Unity run on the second screen, because I haven't created a setup option yet. Audio's good. Oh, thanks for letting me know that. The last few streams have been a bit of trial and error, making sure the audio's not too bad. Hope for nice stuff, yeah. Hope that I can demonstrate some of the new features. The visuals of the tornadoes still need some fine tuning. So what's different between this one? So in my last stream, a tornado just started at the same spot and just followed a fixed path across the map. How it works this time is that the tornado will be random size. It'll also have a random wind speed, so it'll be random intensity. It'll start at a random location on the map and move in a random direction. So intercepting is going to be much more difficult. But the way I've done it is I scale the tornado, and there's like a box that the tornado's contained in, and I'm scaling that box up and down. And when it's a smaller tornado, it doesn't look as good as when it's a bigger tornado. And what I need to do is kind of make it so as it randomly generates different sized tornadoes, it kind of tweaks the rendering settings so that it looks right no matter what the size is. So hopefully that will be the case after maybe another week or so of development. So I'm just waiting for the build here. I would have started this earlier if I knew it was going to take this long. But how the game's going to work is I've got a very basic probe. It's just like a reflective cylinder. I did have a Dorothy model that I was using, and that was it was actually originally a 3D printable 3D model that I'd made, which I was using in the game, so it didn't look quite right. But earlier today I was organising some of the files, and I deleted what I thought were unneeded files, and accidentally deleted half of the files needed for the Dorothy model. So I managed to break that. So just so I had something to show on the stream, I've just got a cylinder as a kind of like a stand-in, just to demonstrate the game mechanics. So how it'll work is your instrument package has a certain number of samples that it can take, a number of readings. So I've started off with a low number of 50, and it'll take one sample every second until all the 50 samples are taken. And what it'll do is it'll record the wind speed at that time. And I've got a little tally in the corner of the screen, which I'll show once this finishes building. And it keeps a tally of how many F1 strength winds you record, F2, F3 up to F5. So what the idea of the game is with contracts is your contract will say something like, get a minimum of 20 F4 wind speed ratings or higher. So then you'll have a certain amount of time to complete that, so say 30 minutes or so. And so yeah, you've got to try and race like mad around the map and try and get a successful intercept to get those wind speed measurements. But they'll probably sucked up into the tornado or just be static on the ground. So just for this demonstration, it'll be static on the ground, but I do plan on having it interact with the tornado funnel. If you haven't seen already, I'm in the process of moving all the destruction physics from the CPU to the GPU. So I was getting like 17 frames per second originally because I was having to simulate the physics of buildings getting torn apart. So you got to check for collisions and everything, and it wasn't very effective. But so what I've done is I've started changing to the GPU, so now I can get something like, I think it was like 20,000 objects, and it was running smoothly at like 60, 70 frames per second on a low-end graphics card. So that that's so that was pretty much the plan for that, is to eventually get everything moved to the GPU, so that it can run more efficiently. Kind of like KSP. Yeah, it's, the mission idea is based on Kerbal Space Program. It's a similar sort of idea. So there'll be different types of measurements you can take. So I've just got wind speed measurements in this, but I guess you've also got pressure, so you can record pressure drops, and I guess temperature would also be one as well. So you have 3 different types of readings that you need to try and get at different distances from the tornado. Then you can upgrade the instrument package as well. So right now it can only take 50 samples. It can go up to, maybe it can go up to like 5,000 or something like that. And the sampling rate is 1 every second, and maybe we could have it so that's taking 20 or 30 samples a second. So let's look at the question here. Is the probe the only way to collect data, or can you collect data from the damage left behind? So the plan right now is to just make the only way of collecting data is with the probe, but I guess there could in the future be a sort of damage survey mode where, say, you take a photo of a house where the foundation's been swept clean, and then it logs it as EF5 strength damage or F5 strength damage, depending on which scale I use. I've opted for the original Vegeta scale since I'm trying to set this game in the 90s. So for now, it'll just be probes, but there could be some options for surveying down the line. So hopefully this builds soon. This keeps getting all the way, the progress bar keeps getting all the way to the end, and then it starts again. So the idea is you start with very basic equipment, so a slow car which can't withstand very strong wind speeds, a probe which can only take a few samples and that very slowly, like a camera that's really blurry and the colours are all distorted, and then as you progress and you successfully complete missions, you'll be able to upgrade your equipment and then be able to take on more challenging missions. So when you're fully upgraded, you'll have, I guess, a high definition camera, maybe even a video camera, and then a car with the max speed of, say, 120 miles an hour, and it can withstand, say, up to mid to high end F3 wind speeds. So that's kind of the idea for this. Right, wow, this is taking a long time. Could maybe try and show the Unity window, but it's not letting me pull that up, so that's a shame. So I'm just going to drop a thing on the Discord server to say that I'm live now. At everyone, I'm live now, just waiting for the game to finish building, hopefully soon. Someone's just got a bloody nose, so that's poor timing. Hopefully the stream's not so bad that it caused a blood vessel to break. Yeah, hope you can get that sorted out. That's not good. Luckily, once it's compiled the shaders for the first time with subsequent builds, it's a lot quicker. So hopefully, if I have to do this on a future stream, it shouldn't take as long. Some of the challenges I've had are switching from being the player, to the into the vehicle, because there's actually 2 different in-game cameras which I use. One which is attached to the player and follows the player around, and then one which is fixed to the vehicle. And switching between those two, there's actually a lot of little things which can go wrong. For example, prior to this, I'd get out the car, and then as I was walking around, the same controls for walking around as a player also controlled the car. So I'd be trying to walk over to the car, and then the car would be driving forwards. So then I'd have to walk backwards and then stop so that the car would reverse to me. So I got that fixed right before the stream, so I'm just waiting on the build so that we can demonstrate that. And will there be custom music? Again, it's one of those things which can be added as like a future feature. Right now that's not the focus. Like, I'm trying to get the key sort of gameplay components down, so that's probe intercepts, upgrading your vehicle and your equipment, things like contracts and missions, and making like the vehicle physics work, and making sure that you can like raise warnings to towns. So I'm gonna possibly have randomly spawned towns, or maybe I'll just have to hand model them and get the key gameplay mechanics down and get them working well and get feedback on those first. I try to make the tornadoes look like the ones from Twister. Yeah, I'm kind of a bit of both. So I have used them. So this F5 you can see from Twister. I've kind of used that as a comparison for when comparing what I'm rendering in the game. So I have been working on that, but I've also tried to make them look somewhat realistic as well. Like, not so the ones in Twister are reasonably realistic, but if you look at actual tornado footage, there's a difference there. So I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting on this screen. I'm just trying to see if I can. Just trying to see if I can check the progress in another window here. So yeah, I am using those as inspiration, but I'm trying to make them look a bit more realistic as well. And one thing I need to add is the swirling dust. I've added it and taken it out a few times because each time I add it, I'm not too happy with the effect. So I need to fix that. There was one dust effect which I really liked, and it looked quite realistic, and the dust was very chaotic, but it absolutely killed the frames per second. It just required so much computation to render that it wasn't worth doing, even though it looked good. You're doing a good job. Oh, thank you. I've put months of work into the tornado rendering. Originally, I had this really long pipeline where I'd have to create a fluid simulation in Maya. I'd then have to export. I'd then have to pause the fluid simulation halfway through, convert the fluid to a mesh, export the mesh, upload it to an online 3D editor I used, because it would export a hollow mesh. I'd have to fill in the mesh, then I'd have to export that into, again, import into Houdini, add cloud effects, then export the cloud as a 3D texture, and then import that into Unity. So it was a very long process just to create a single tornado, and there's no way of really customizing it. So now what I've managed to do is, all within the shader, you can customize the size, the shape, the texture of the tornado. So by texture I mean how, if you look at this tornado here, you've got parts which are closer to the center of the tornado and other parts which kind of puff out. You can customize that, so you can have a very smooth looking funnel, or you can have like a very bumpy looking funnel, and then how much it blurs off. So if you look, this edge isn't, so for example if you look here, you've got a crisp black edge, just as an example. That wouldn't look right on the edge of a tornado because it's kind of dusty and kind of all dusty and cloudy. So you actually control how much it blurs towards the end, which I've called the fluffage factor because I couldn't think of a good name for it. Then you can also control how it reacts to light. So how I'm simulating it is, you cast a, so say this windmill thing here is a person looking at the tornado. What you've got to do for every frame, for every pixel, is you cast a ray of light into the tornado funnel and you sample how much stuff there is there, and for every point where there's stuff, you then have to do another ray march towards the light source, which is usually the sun in the game, and then you have to, once you know how much light goes to that point, you then ray march again and then calculate it again, and you calculate all the light which gets transferred through to that point. So the more stuff there is, the darker the colour will be, and the less stuff that's in the way, the lighter the colour will be. But the way light works is, as a light ray travels through something like a cloud, the light gets scattered in lots of different directions, but it tends to continue in the direction that it's already travelling. So I've been able to model that so that the light scatters a bit more realistically around the funnel. I think you'll see in the thumbnail for this stream, there was actually there's a screenshot preview that I'd taken previously. Actually, I might be able to pull it up on here while we're waiting. So a nice side effect of doing this is that you get a bit of what's called silver lining, a bit of a glow around the edge of the funnel. So if you ever look at a cloud in real life where it's like backlit by the sun, you get a glow around the edge of it, and that's kind of imitating the same effect. Obviously, you've got to take shortcuts. I can't simulate the full physics of a cloud, so the whole idea is to use this ray marching technique. I do apologise for how long this game has taken to build. In the past, when I've built these games, they've only taken about maybe 10 minutes at the most. So I thought if I started the build 10 minutes before the stream, that'd be plenty of time, but I guess not. But I will be demoing this as soon as the build is finished. I'll show some other things. I've been playing around with the tornado probabilities. So how this is going to work is it's going to sample from a probability distribution. So with Storm Chasers, how it worked was it would be a random number generator, and it would choose a strength for the tornado and then generate the tornado around that. The way it works in this is actually samples from a probability distribution, so it's like a smooth distribution of possible wind speeds. And then what I've done is for here is I've just taken this smooth probability distribution and categorized it. So unlike in real life F5 tornadoes are about 0.1% I think of all tornadoes, and the game is going to be 8% because it'd be pretty boring to never see an F5. So roughly about 30% of all tornadoes in the game will be F3 or higher. Then you can have some F0s and F1s and F2s as well. But one thing I'll try and implement as well is have them strengthen with time as well, like strengthen to a peak strength and then weaken. So even if it starts as an F0, hopefully you'll still be likely to see an F2 or an F3, just to see some stuff happen. It's almost done. What I can do as well, just to show what I'm talking about with the GPU damage, I'll pull that up, that video up. So I guess I'll be streaming a video I've already got on my channel, but just to show something while I'm waiting for this to finish building. So let's go here. So here it is. So this isn't finished yet, but how this works is, as far as Unity is concerned, these buildings are all stationary, and what the shader does is it tells the GPU that actually this bit of building isn't here, it's actually over here. So all I'm doing is telling the GPU to render these in different positions than what they actually are in real life. I say real life, within the reality of the game. So the Unity game engine still thinks all these buildings are in the same place, but I'm telling the graphics card to render them in different positions. And then here's an old, while it's still doing, here's an old 90s VHS style video. See, it's very early design of the buildings here. I tried to make my own building spawner, but it wasn't very good. So I've ended up getting a destructible building asset from the asset store, which has been really useful. See, I was somewhat happy with the debris cloud here, but it still just didn't look quite right. So this is an older version of the tornado. I think this was back when I was using Unistorm as well for the clouds, which I'm not anymore. I'm using a much better asset for the clouds. It's still not loaded. I'm hoping it will be soon. And when it starts generating assets, that's when you know it's close to being finished. See what else. I'll show some random videos here while we wait for it to build. So I might show some earlier ones. So this was a very, very early one. This is the first volumetric rendering I actually managed to get working at all. You can see it's very basic. It starts at the top of the screen and works its way down. This is literally just a mesh which was spinning around and I was ray marching. And you can see it slowly builds down to the ground. So yeah, the tornadoes have come a long way since this initial attempt. Almost done. And I did actually work on Twister Research and Rescue game, like say a year ago here, but I ended up abandoning it for a number of reasons. The development wasn't going particularly well, so this is a project I've started completely from scratch. So I can show this while we're waiting. So I bought another asset package which comes with everything you need to build a terrain, so trees and things, but it lets you make the trees react to the wind speed. So I've made it as the tornado approaches, the trees react more strongly to the wind. However, I think I need to limit it because it gets to a certain point, and then the trees almost synchronized in how they start moving. So they almost look too twitchy. But what I've changed this now, so I'm using the Unity wind zones, so the trees will sway within the vicinity of the tornado. And so some new things. So in this stream as well, I've got an overlay on the screen now. So what it shows you the distance from the edge of the tornado, the current wind speed that you're experiencing, and then it's got a tally of all the successful wind speed measurements being able to collect. Yeah, so I plan to release this. Yeah, so it's going to be a PC game, and plan to release it on the not the Unity store, so on Steam. So I started the process for that. Obviously, they've got to make sure that, because you could potentially use Steam for money laundering. I guess you could just make some crappy application and then funnel money through there. So there's a lot of, I had to fill out like a tax survey, and they've got to do different identity verification steps. So I had to like take scans of my driver's license and send those. So I think the process I said takes about 4 weeks, and that was, I think, about a week ago that I started that process. So I'm just waiting for that to finish, and then I can put up a placeholder for the game for another 2 weeks after that, and then after that I can then allow early access. So the game should be in a state where, at least for single player, there'll be something which I can release. So targeting early January to mid-January for an initial alpha / early access build. Because I've been asked if I'm going to target mobile, but I'm not going to, because for a storm chasing game there's so much optimization that needs to go into it just to make it run well on a low end PC, that making it work on mobile it's just not going to be the best use of time. That would be an entire project in itself. It'd almost have to be a standalone game with the amount of things you'd have to adapt and change just to make it work. Will I be making an accurate supercell thunderstorm structure? I do want to do that eventually, but for now I'm just trying to blend the tornado in with the background clouds, just to have something that's playable. But I would like to add like a wall cloud and like a storm, like a updraft base and things like that. But I'd have to make these procedurally generated, which means I'd have to write code to randomly create, like, so for example, So to get like this sort of like banding effect um, here, I'd have to write that in code. So what you have to do is you have to sample different noise functions and adapt them in different ways so that you get a nice structure. So I do want to do that, but I'm trying to get the tornado perfect first. So get the funnel looking good, get the debris cloud and dust looking good, and then I can start looking at the structure and try and do a bit more realistic storm structure there. Is the game only going to be single player? So no. So for the initial like early access release, it will be single player. But once I've got the core gameplay mechanics in place, I'll then be looking to make it multiplayer. So I'm thinking it could either be somewhat competitive, like Storm Chasers used to be, where each player has their own score and you compete against other players, or I could make it. Or I guess it could be two different game modes, and one could be cooperative, where. So the way it works in Twister is that you've got Bill who's trying to get the instrument package in front of the tornado, but then you also have Dusty and his crew who've got to set up the receivers to actually receive the data as well. So imagine what I'd do is you have a lobby where you have pairs of players join, and one player will be assigned the intercept role, and the other will be set the receiver role. So the person receiving has to stay within range of the intercept. In range of the instrument package, but without getting in the way of the tornado. So the idea is you have to set up, and once you set up, you can't move. So if you get in the path of the tornado and you need to pack up, then you don't collect that data. So it's just the challenge of trying to find a safe location to receive the data from. So yeah, single player initially, but I do want to add multiplayer as soon as possible. I did try and create a Trello board to show the progress and the planned features and what I was currently working on. However, in order to share that without allowing other people to edit, I would have had to pay for a I don't know if it was a subscription or membership or to unlock additional features, and I didn't think that right now paying for things which don't directly contribute to the development of the game was a sensible investment. Any money which I put towards the game, I put towards assets or models. Oh, this is a good sign. So when it's saying packing assets and it's doing these, that's usually the last thing it does. So hopefully I'll be able to start streaming even though it's 30 minutes late. I'll just see if there's anything else I can show here on my stream. Oh, this is something interesting. I'll just mute the audio so I don't get a copyright strike. So what I did here, when did I do this? A year ago. I trained an artificial intelligence to create tornado and storm images. So how it works is I have a database of... That's not a good sound. A database of about 30 or 40,000 different storm images, and I'd feed that into what's called a adversarial network, and essentially what it does is it learns what those pictures look like, and over time it learns to create storm images. So I did this. I've got the score from Twister in the background of this, but I don't want to flag this video up for copyright because it detects it. And but you can see over time it starts to learn to generate these different storm images. So you got one here with like in-cloud lightning lighting up the anvil there. You got one here that's like a dusty tornado in the foreground. It takes a lot of computation to do that though, so I think that was like a week's worth of training compressed into 30 seconds. I guess we're talking copyright strikes. Let's not start playing clips from A Star Is Born. I'll close that now. So it looks like this is almost done. Okay. There's a small issue with Easy Roads, but luckily I won't have to rebuild it again. I just need to find maybe some road objects which are empty. what I could do, it's not ideal, but I may just have to run this in the Unity editor. So what I'm gonna do, I could try to do another build really quickly and see if I'm gonna try and quickly run the build one more time and see if it works. Sometimes it fails the first time and then it works the second time. Failing that, what I'll do is I'll have to play this in the Unity editor. Hopefully I can get something that's running. So I'm trying to get the thing up to see if there's any other questions. It's given. You should just do a photo so that people don't edit it. So I didn't know what that was in relation to. So what type of physics will this game have? So what I'm probably going to do is do some sort of hybrid. So I'll try and do the majority of the destruction on the GPU, so there won't be physics and interactions there. But parts of the buildings will have physics attached to them, so you can have partial bits of building still standing and bits of like roof and wall still connected to each other. But I'll be using the Unity physics engine, so anything that Unity physics engine allows, I can implement in the game. So will this game feature .3? It could do. I might have to call it something different though. I don't know if there's any sort of copyright or intellectual property around the design of like the Dorothy props and the .3 props, but I want to make sure I don't step on any toes. So I'll probably have something which looks like it, but doesn't have the name .3. I have to exercise a little bit of artistic license just to have it just different enough so that I don't get sued. You know, I reckon the first step usually isn't getting sued. From what I've heard, if there's any sort of copyright issues, they'll usually. I just said, so I'm just trying to do one more build. If this doesn't work, I'll run this in Unity, so it won't be as smooth as having a dedicated build. But I'll still be able to demo it because people have been waiting half an hour now, and the build still hasn't completed. So yeah, what usually happens from I've heard is you get a cease and desist notice first, so they'll tell you to stop using that model or that name or whatever, and then as long as you comply with that, everything should hopefully be okay. Okay, if this isn't wanting to play ball, what I'll do. So there's a thing I'm using to generate the roads, and it's throwing an error. It's done that before. I'll just show the error here. It's done that before, and what it is sometimes you can have roads which are added to the game but are empty. And so what I'll have to do before the next stream is go through each of the roads in here and figure out which one's causing the issue. But what I'll do is I'll run the game here. I'll set it to play full screen, and I'll demo it all in here instead then. So when the game starts, we'll start. So this is the Twister Hill location. So this is based on the real life location. I'm just outside of Boone in Iowa. So the road network is close to the real thing. It's based off the road network from the Ordnance Street Maps. So okay, I've seen the trees are waving already. So and the terrain. So where this is the bridge. So in the movie, there's kind of like a helicopter shot, and they come from a road over here, turn left along here, and they go across this bridge, and then Bill and Joe have the argument part way up this hill here. So this is Twister Hill. So this map is smaller than the last one I showed. The last one I showed was 32 kilometers by 32 kilometers, but working on a map that size was working on a map of that size just started becoming practical. Wow, that's loud. Can I turn the volume down? Yes, because I don't want to deafen everyone. I'm just going to crank that down a bit. So, what this tells us in the bottom left is that we're 1.3 miles away from the tornado, and right now experiencing 3-mile-an-hour winds, which are obviously weak because we're that far from the tornado. And driving in this direction means that excuse me, we're getting further away, so we need to head in the other direction. So let me just turn around here, and we'll head in this direction. So we're going to drive up Twister Hill. So this is the same place they drove in the movie as well. So 1.2 miles. So the idea is that you can upgrade this as well. So not only to tell you the distance, maybe you can upgrade it so you can get a distance and a direction as well. In the bottom right there, that's showing that we've got 50 readings left in our instrument package, and then it shows a tally of how many wind speeds of each type have been recorded. See, the roads need some tweaking in this, so we should probably be able to see the tornado now. So the tornado's there on our left. I need some work to get it blended in with the sky, but I think... Let's see if... Let me just put the handbrake on here. Oh no, my car flipped upside down. Let's get back in then. I implemented a reset feature, so I didn't have to restart the game every time the car ended up flipping over. So I think that's coming towards us. So, just like in real life, you have to use this same technique to see if you're in the path of the tornado or not. So you need to find some sort of fixed reference point. So these trees along here should be good, and then see if there's any sort of left to right movement compared to those. So let's just stop here. And then, so you can see when I'm switching between the cameras, I need to make a quick edit to this. Let me just change. Where's the car camera? Oh, is it the first person? No, that can see far. So you got a thing called a culling distance. Yeah, let's just set that to say 2,500, just so we can see a bit further in the game. So let's unpause it. There we go. Now we can see the tornado when we're outside of the car. So we'll have a look and see which direction it's moving. So it's moving, it looks like left to right, so we need to go a little bit further up along this road. So you can see this is the Jeep from the movie, but I'm going to have to change the name of that for the game. So if anyone's got suggestions of how I can make it close to the name Jeep, but without cause any copyright issues, that'd be good to know. So I think we need to drive a little bit further up the road here. So you see the roads need some tweaking. So how this works is I've imported the actual road network from Ordnance Street Maps, and it gets automatically placed, but you see it needs to be manually readjusted so that it looks good. See, there's parts where it clips through the terrain or where the junctions haven't connected up quite right. So let's see if we can get through. We may need to get ahead of it and then find somewhere to turn left. Call a leap or a peep. Will you go slow if you drive on grass? So that's not intentional, but kind of yes, because I'm using Unity's wheel colliders, and if you go off the road, the terrain tends to be quite bumpy, which means you kind of have to drive slower just so you don't roll the car or roll the truck. So let's jump out here. I'm going to jump out here and have a bit of a spy. A yeet. I guess I could reuse the two E's. Then if I flip the P upside down and yellow out some of it, I could turn it into a T. Maybe do something clever with the J to turn it into a Y. Okay, so I think we may be in the path of the tornado. I'm trying to get a clear view of it. It seems to be quite a slow mover. just watching. And if you watch the trees, they should hopefully start to sway more as the tornado gets closer. Why don't the trees show when you're driving? Yeah, so that's a bug I'm trying to fix. So I'm using two cameras. So this is the camera that's attached to the player. And there's a camera which I switch to once you're in the car. And for some reason, the trees aren't picked up when you're in the car. But they are once you leave the car. So that's a bug I'm trying to fix. And then you'll notice as soon as I step outside the car, suddenly all the trees and everything will spawn around. So it's just an issue I'm experiencing with the combination of assets I'm using. I think we're in the path of this now because I don't see very much left to right motion. So I'm going to get a little bit closer to the truck now in case we need to make a mad dash for it. Where did I park? I think it was somewhere over here. There it is. So where is this tornado? Okay, I think it's so it's saying that we're 0.6 miles from it. It seems to be quite a slow mover. Maybe we can do some off-roading. Because we can't be standing here all day waiting for it to get closer. So where's the car? If the tornado won't come to us, we'll go to the tornado. Okay, let's try an off-road. I'll have to do this carefully. So the vehicle physics still need some tweaking. It's very difficult to get cars working well in Unity. Okay, well, less than half a mile. It can be quite unstable. Frame rate's starting to suffer a bit, which is why I just wanted to do a standalone build to stream on. Okay, let's see if we can figure out which way this is moving. So I can't really tell which way it's moving. Oh, starting to lose control of the truck a bit here. Okay, let's just reset. There's the tornado there. I don't know why it's standing still, pretty much. I want to be careful with driving into that. Is it coming towards us or moving away? I think it's coming towards us. Yeah, the FPS are quite low on this. I'm trying to, that's something I'm trying to optimize. Because when you run it in Unity, there's a lot of unnecessary stuff which run in the background. Okay, I'm gonna hop out now. And let's deploy this. So when you do a build, it clears out all that stuff that you don't really have to have running in the background, and it runs a bit smoother. So we're 1 mile away and it's 34 miles now. So what I'll do is I'll drop the probe there. So it's just a reflective cylinder for now. I'm going to completely redo the instrument package model. So let's run back to the truck, which is parked over there. And obviously I'll have to add physics so that if you walk or drive near the tornado that you get thrown about and possibly killed. I just don't have that implemented just yet. And I've got a bunch of wind effects which I've bought, so I can have like mist and like the actual sound of wind and like tumbleweed and stuff as you get closer to the tornado. Looks like it's going to be a successful intercept. Let's enter the car. And what I'll do is that if this is successful, I'll restart it. So that we've got a different tornado, because what it does is it automatically regenerates once it moves outside the map. But at this rate, we're going to be here all day. Oh, I just thought something that's likely affecting the frames per second as well is I think one of the camera's rendering distance was set to 20 kilometers, which is way too high for this. So moving to the left. Okay, we've got 6 readings left. I think we're directly in the path of it now. I'm going to try and... So the way I've made this work right now is once all the readings are used up, you can then deploy again. So let me just get a little bit closer, because the wind speed's only 30 miles an hour. I guess isn't too bad. Let's get right up to the edge, since this is obviously quite a weak tornado. And let's see if we can get some successful readings here. So it doesn't record F0 strength. I just thought F0 was a bit boring. So it's just F1 through F5. So what I'll do is I'll drop the probe there and then run backwards. See, that's what the funnel looks like from the base there. One thing I do want to do is replace some of these like flower and grass assets with corn to recreate the scene from Twister when they run through the cornfield. And what I'm going to do is edit the shader so as you get close to them, they kind of fall down, so you can drive through it and run through it. But I can't actually find any decent... Oh, there we've got our first successful reading. So if you look at the bottom right there, we've got 3 F1 readings. So that's telling us that this is likely an F1 strength tornado. So, for example, your contract could be like, for a very simple one, could be like get 10 readings of F1 strength or higher. So then at this point we would have completed the contract, received a cash payout, which we can then use to improve our equipment. So what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to pause the game here, and I think it's not this. It's here, main camera. Yeah, I'm just going to drop that down to 2000 so that the frames aren't so bad when driving. So I think part of the reason is it's going to render everything within a 20-kilometer radius, which isn't going to help things, especially when I'm trying to stream at the same time and run it in the editor. So I'll wait. Uh-oh. Okay, so we've intercepted an F1 strength tornado there. So let's try this again, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the game and we'll try again. Hopefully we've got a faster moving tornado, a larger tornado, a stronger one. So what I'm going to do is see if I can do anything to help the frames per second here. So one of the things I can do is for the trees, let me just make those a little bit less dense, because rendering all those trees takes a bit of GPU. So I'll just drop that density from 35. Let's bump that up to 50. Update those. And then with these, do the same thing. Just with less density, there's fewer trees and less strain on the graphics card. So let me just... Actually, I'm not going to save this because it takes forever to save. Looks nice. I think it looks nice. This is still very early days for the game, but what I'm trying to do is get, like I say, get the core gameplay working. I want something that's actually fun, and then also looks good as well. Because intercepting the tornadoes is or tracking down the tornadoes is the rewarding part of the game. So I don't just want to create something with particles that looks generic. I want to create something that's actually worth chasing after. So, right, the tornado's 2.5 miles away, 2.4 miles away. So it seems like it's moving towards us with 2 miles an hour. Sometimes you can kind of judge the speed. You can kind of judge how strong the tornado is, because if you're like a mile away and the speed's already like 30 miles an hour, you know it's going to be a strong tornado. Oh, there it is. It's over on our right there. So I don't know which direction it's moving, but I think there's a road which cuts across to the right. So we'll try and get a bit closer to it. I've capped the car's speed to 70 miles an hour. And it's already skittish enough as it is, and then you go faster than that, it would just cause a load of crashes and rolls. So I think potentially I'll just stop quickly. So in Twister there's like a kind of like a I don't know if it's a helicopter shot or like a dolly shot or something. But you... Let me just reset this. But you see Twister Hill from like a distance, and I wonder if they'll actually set up somewhere like here. Oops. Uh-oh. No, come back. Come back. Come on. If it rolls or crashes, then I can get back in. So I guess theoretically, once the probes are in the back of the car, you can recreate the end of the movie by there we go, and oops, by jumping out of the car with having it attached. So as that's an unintended feature of the game. But let's get after this tornado. Okay, let's reset. Okay, see, there's still some issues. Oh, I've managed to fall through the map. Okay, let's start again. Start again. It's very bug prone when you've got to switch the cameras and the perspective between like a first person character controller and a vehicle. So there seems to be some issue with the rotation there. I think the Z rotation, I need to ensure that the Z rotation matches the car. Okay, 4 miles away. 3 miles an hour at 4 miles. That's probably a strong tornado. I think that's worth chasing. So let's go. Start off, I'll head off in this direction. See if we can get close. We'll see if it if the distance starts to tick down or not. Get a rough idea of which direction it's in. 4.1 miles, so yeah, we'll continue in this direction. So this map is 10 miles by 10 miles. One thing I want to do as well is replace the engine sounds, so maybe get some recordings of the actual Jeep engine sound, or see if there's some generic like V8 or V12 engine sound. Oh, there it is. Okay, the road network's quite good along here, so there's probably going to be a good intercept opportunity. You see the terrain's quite barren here because the trees aren't getting automatically spawned. See, I'm still trying to work out how to smooth out the transition between the top of the tornado and the clouds above it. because the clouds are taken care of by a different asset, and I've created the tornadoes myself, so getting the two to work together is quite challenging. Okay, we're 3 miles away. It looks like a pretty decent sized tornado. In this, I've kind of correlated somewhat the size of the tornado with the strength, so bigger tornadoes have stronger wind speeds. But yeah, this doesn't sound quite right. So if you think back to Twister, when Bill stamps on the gas pedal and you hear the engine rev, I want to have that kind of like deeper engine sound, rather than just kind of like this repetitive whining sound which comes by default with my car controller. So 2.5 miles away. Can't quite tell which direction it's moving in yet. But I think with how slowly we're catching up with it, I think we might be moving in roughly the same direction. So we might need to get ahead and then turn right to intercept. Are there wedges? Yeah, so the way it works is the size is randomly generated. So it can be anywhere from a rope to a stovepipe or cone shape or wedge. So right now the size is randomly generated and it's between, I think it's something like 80 meters wide and a mile wide that can be in the game. Oh, it looks like it went off the edge of the map. And the new one's been regenerated. So, let's see if we can get to that one then. Oh, you see, it's all the way over there. So I think there's a road which turns left a bit down here, so we'll get along there and see if we can get closer to it. Whew, that was loud. So it's way off there in the distance. One thing I want to do is kind of get the growl sound that you get from that's used in Twister. So obviously I can't use the sound from the film, so I'll have to try my best to try and recreate that. I don't know if I can get some sort of royalty-free like lion roar sound, which I can then use the same technique they did, which is to slow it down and then play it backwards. I think they used a camel's moan and then they did that editing trick to get the sound for the tornadoes. So I'll see if I get something of that, because the lightning strike or the thunder sound is quite unnerving. So if you can add on top of that wind sound, plus like the tornado growling once it gets to a certain strength, the idea is that the tornadoes should be a bit more intimidating than they currently are, since they don't really pose any threat. Hopefully this gives you an idea of the size of the map, and this is just going to be one of the maps. My plan was to have 5 maps, so one is the, what's it called, where the ditch scene's filmed and the areas around there, so like Fairfax I think it is. Then there's here, which is Twister Hill. Then there's Cambridge, so Cambridge, Iowa, where they filmed the tanker drop scene. You've got, is it Eldora, where they filmed the final scene with the old house. And where was it? I think there's going to be one more map. It's on the development updates on the Discord server, so if you haven't joined, I recommend you join the Discord server. Will there be hail and rain, etc.? Yeah, there will. Actually, I could enable that now. I don't know how well this is going to work. Oh, I can't enable it now. I can enable it for the next chase. Oops. Yeah, get another issue with the camera. Whoa. So I'll get that fixed What I could do is let's restart it. That's a good idea. I'll enable the hail. So let's go to here. Yeah. So let's set it to hail. I'm just going to drop it down a bit because I've tested this out before, and if you get it too strong, there's a lot of fog that it generates, and then it doesn't look too good. So let me just do that. Where's the main camera? So let's set that to 2000, and I'll set the other one to 2000 as well. I might just drop down the anti-aliasing settings as well. So let's try it now. Excuse me, this time with the hail. Yeah, so that plan is with the meadow asset which I got, and it comes with like fences and things. And I've also bought a destructible fence asset. So what I want to do is have fences lining like on each side of the road in certain areas, which can then get destroyed. I like that sound actually. And then litter the road, and then maybe there'll be some sort of way I'll figure out of adding trees which can be randomly generated along the road to block the path, or power lines. I've got power lines as an option, I just haven't put them in the game yet, but I do have models for those, and they can get ripped out the ground. 4 miles. .9, so I think we're heading in the right direction. So let's do another. So as you can see, getting a good intercept isn't going to be easy. It's probably going to take as many attempts as in the movie, have just as many challenges. Oh. Yeah, 5-mile-an-hour winds at 4 miles. I can't do the mental arithmetic, but this is probably a big one. Because the wind speed kind of decreases almost exponentially. So you get to a certain distance and then the wind speed starts to rapidly increase. So 5 miles an hour at 4 miles means that it's likely a very strong tornado. So let's see if we can figure out where it is. I'm probably running parallel to it because I'm flying down this road and not getting any update. And now I'm moving away from it. Okay, we've got a crossroads here. So kind of just going to have to guess and see if this starts decreasing the distance. And if it doesn't... Okay, looks like it's in this... Looks like it's this direction. 3.7. We need to keep our eyes peeled for the tornado. I have to be within 2 kilometers of it for it to actually render. Okay, 6 miles an hour, 3 miles. Oh, make sure I don't go off the road here. Looks like there might supposed to be a bridge there. What I'll have to do, I will be having to sign off soon. It's just after 10 PM here in the UK, and I've got a lot of work to do tomorrow, so I do need to get a good night's sleep. But since the stream was delayed by 30 minutes because of the build, whoa, that looked cool. I will try and stay on as long as I can to get a good intercept. 2.9 miles. Okay. Do we go right or left, or do we off-road it for a while? Let's go right. have to slow down for this bend. Okay, have to be careful here. Okay, the distance is still counting down. Going in roughly the right direction. Until I crash and roll the truck. Oh, almost got lucky there, and it's gonna land on the wheels. It did. Perfect. Just now I'm a little bit disoriented and don't know which way to go to get back onto the road. What I'll do that so I can have a little look around. Not having the best luck here. We'll get out of this eventually. There we go. Come on, it's getting away from us. 3 miles, so I think I need to go. As you can see, the car really isn't very stable. Oh, I just saw the road there. It's in front. So I need to get these vehicle physics fixed before release, obviously, because I wouldn't expect people have to put up with this type of annoying physics. Okay, I think we're making it there. There we go. As I say, 57th time is the charm. Maybe I should activate an off-road mode where you can't roll the car. Okay, are we getting closer? Okay, we're getting closer in this direction, so let's keep following this road. Which suddenly just appears to disappear. One of the things I planned as well is those GPS assets you can get. So, rather than just having you drive blindly around a map, it will have a GPS so you can plan your target area, and then it'll help you navigate there and give. I think it can give turn-by-turn directions as well. Oh my goodness, this is starting to get quite irritating if I'm honest. I know I made it myself, but it's just so unstable. .3, so do we need to go the other way? Can't even turn without the thing rolling. Maybe it's over this direction. Oh well, there's a nice smooth bit of ground here. Okay, this looks to be the rough direction we need to be heading. Just gonna try and keep the speed up. As you can see, this is a huge map. Like, those aren't background hills, like, you can actually drive up to them if you drive long enough. Okay, I'm not having good look at it. I think I'm going to start again until we've got one that's strong and nearby, so I'm not have to spend so much time driving. So ideally we want it to be around 2 miles away. Okay, 3.7 miles. That's too far. If we've got something with a 2 in front of it, even 2.9 miles, we'll go after that. But trying to drive 4 miles across the map with this truck, as you can see, it's quite unstable, and I haven't finished smoothing out all the roads yet. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge to drive a massive distance. But let's try and get one good intercept of, say, F3 or F4 strength. Or more. Come on. 1.8 miles. Okay. Let's try and get another intercept. 1.8 miles, it should be almost visible. Right, now we're going to see it as we get over here. Should be visible by now. Okay, now we're getting further away. Okay, I've got crossroads here, so I can either go left or right. Let's try going right this time. Okay, and it's counting down. Good, that's what we want to see. .3. So this one's 5-mile-an-hour winds at 1 mile. Makes me think how strong that one was at 5-mile-an-hour winds at 4 miles. That must have been a beast. It's a shame we couldn't catch up to it. Okay, there it is over there. So let's figure out which direction it's going. And looks like this road runs out, so we may just need to off-road for a while. Let's just drive straight at it, and then we can figure... Oh, there's a big valley there. Okay. Might be trapped in this valley. I do need to fix the car physics, because it's not the easiest thing to drive, to be honest. Let's see if I can power over the edge. Let's try to get into a different... I think I need to set the respawn height to a little bit lower. So it's not dropping from so high. Come on. There we go. Now I just need to hop out the car. And then hop back in. Just to fix the camera. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, let's try and not get crushed. There we go. Don't know why the camera is so wonky here. Okay, let's start this one more time. And then once it gets about 10:30, I'll have to sign off. Okay, 5.5 miles, not driving that far. So it looks like the biggest thing I need to fix right now is the vehicle physics so that driving isn't such a chore. So you can focus on actually intercepting the tornado, not just worrying about rolling the car every time you need to turn around. $60 miles an hour at 4 miles. That might actually be worth... that would have actually been worth going after, even though it was further away. $5 miles. Don't have time for that. What I could do actually is change the area that the tornado can spawn in to make it closer to the player. Let's see. We'll try this one more time, and then if not, I'll fix it so that it's within like a mile. Yeah, because 5.1 miles, that's too far to drive. So what I'll do, there was a spawn controller. So what I'll do, set 4,000 by 4,000. Give that a go, and then I will have to go in the next 10 minutes or so. Okay, 1.4 miles. That's more reasonable. Yeah, thank you for watching. I'm sorry this hasn't been as exciting as I'd hoped. There's been a lot of cars rolling over and a lot of bugs and waiting for things. So I'll come better prepared for the next stream. I'll make sure I've got a proper build. But thank you for everyone who's been patient after watching it. As you can see, there's still a lot of work to do. But I do hope to get something that's playable very soon, as soon as possible, really. Alright. Oh, there it is. It's to our right. So let's figure out which way is it moving. .9 miles. Is it moving towards us or away? One mile. It must be moving away. And it's moving behind, so we need to kind of turn around and we need to find a road to the left to intercept it on. That was a close one as well. May have to off-road to intercept this, so let's go for that now, because this area is quite flat actually. Looks like we're going to get a better intercept this time, so I just need to figure out the best way to get into the path of it. Another crash, come on. Okay, which way am I facing now? Where's the tornado? I think it's behind and to the left. Is that a river? Okay, I may have to ford this river. Oh, that went better than I thought, to be honest. Yeah, there it is. The frame rate keeps dropping loads when I look at the tornado, and it never used to do that. It's just started doing that recently. I need to figure out why. So it's moving. I think it's still moving to the right. I think it's left to right. Oh, close one. Okay, let's just deploy here. And then run away on foot. So I think this may be another F1. Might be an F0. Yeah, this may only be an F0. I need to figure out why the frame rate's getting so low though. This wasn't an issue before, then I changed something and I can't remember what it was. Then suddenly it did become an issue. I guess there's a good thumbnail opportunity for the game. I might screenshot that use that later. Okay, so I think I'm going to have to end this now because I have to get some sleep before tomorrow. But thank you everyone who's tuned in. I do apologise for the delay at the beginning of the stream. From doing this, I've noticed kind of where the main pain points are of using the game. So I know to focus on getting the vehicle physics working and the roads smoothed out. And then I need to figure out what's causing this low frame rate because this has just recently become an issue. But you can see this is how the mechanics of the game are going to work. So you're going to have missions. You've got to try and get intercepts. You can also warn towns and cities before they get hit by a tornado, and you can earn money and points that way. I hope you've enjoyed. I'll have a better stream planned for the next time with hopefully more features and a much more smooth experience. But thank you everyone who's tuned in. I'm going to have to sign out now.